Hey folks, RagingLevine here with another Commander Deck Tech. This time we're going to be taking a look at Ramos Dragon Engine. Now I know you're wondering, why are we looking at a Commander from Commander 2017? All of these other deck techs have been so timely. Well, today we're going to take things in a little bit of a different direction from the average Ramos deck, featuring some new themes as well as a companion. That's right, we're adding Jegantha the Wellspring to the mix. Ramos wants you to play multicolored spells. That's no secret. You add some counters, and then you remove some more counters to make more mana to cast more multicolored spells. Well, Jegantha is here to help Ramos do just that. Jegantha, of course, a multicolored spell in and of itself, 2 colors there, but it taps for Wellspring, which means we can use it to cast even more awesome spells. Now, it does, of course, put a restriction on our deck if we're going to have it as the companion. We can't play cards like Sphinx's Revelation or Ultimatums or things of that nature. But don't worry, there are a lot of powerful multicolor cards we can play alongside Jegantha. And you're going to see only multicolor cards and lands in this deck list. A little extra self-imposed fun restriction. Let's check it out. We're starting off with a Mutate sub-theme. There are a lot of multicolor Mutate cards, and many of them are 3 colors, which is great for Ramos. So we're going to try out Illuna, Brakos, Nethroi, and Snapdax here to start off. Illuna, of course, spinning us into more permanents. Brakos coming back again and again and making it easier to either use Ramos mana or get Ramos counters. Nethroi bringing other creatures back from the graveyard, and Snapdax just dealing some nice damage and adding double strike on. And if you thought 4 legendary Mutate creatures were enough, you were wrong, because we're also playing Vadrok and Otrimi. Vadrok is actually really powerful in this deck. You'll see why a little later. Long story short, we have a lot of instants and sorceries, non-creature cards, in particular for Vadrok, to get back from the graveyard and cast, and Otrimi helps support the Mutate theme, because we only have 10 Mutate creatures in this deck, by bringing some of them back to the hand. And here are our non-legendary mutants. We have Lord Drakus to bring back those spells I was talking about, Trumpeting Gnar with a little extra equity in terms of tokens, Boneyard Lurker for the regrowth effect, and Parcel Beast for value. Aside from that Mutate sub-theme, we've also got a little bit of a +1/+1 counter sub-theme. Of course, Ramos encouraging that, and it's easy to fit that in. A few cards here, Winding Constrictor adding extra counters, Corpsejack Menace doubling counters, and Marchesa leveraging those counters not just on Ramos, but by giving our other creatures dethrone on our other creatures to bring them back from the graveyard to the battlefield. Where would we be, of course, if we didn't slap a bunch of 4 and 5 color cards into this deck? Well, we wouldn't be playing a Ramos deck, that's for sure. Chromanticore and a Maelstrom Archangel at Wellspring cost are a pretty easy call. I've added Atraxa and Yidris alongside them because they're great 4 color cards that perform well in this deck. Atraxa with the Proliferate, and Yidris, again, just providing some extra value with that Cascade. Yidris is actually kind of here in place of Maelstrom Wanderer, a card that I got tired of oh so many years ago and don't really ever cast anymore. So nice job, Yidris. You're really holding that spot. And we've got 3 Nephilim here. Only 3 out of the 5. I don't like the other 2 that much in this deck. They're not great. And even Dunebrood here isn't that good, but I wanted to play at least 3 of them just to have more 4-color spells. Dunebrood, of course, making some sand tokens. Witchmaw getting bigger when we cast spells, playing into the counter theme a little bit, which I like. And Yortiller looking like just a heckin' weird Silent Hill monster and bringing stuff back from the graveyard tapped and attacking. Now we get into some more generic multicolor stuff. Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter, great with all of our big spells. Lets us cast some extra stuff for free. We like that. Rien, Angel of Rebirth. If all of the creatures and all of the non-land cards indeed are going to be multicolored, we might as well leverage this multicolored creature bonus. And Hydroid Krasis, just here to draw some cards. It's a little bit tough to do the job of mana ramping that you might like to do in a multicolor deck like this, in a 5-color deck specifically with this multicolor restriction. We can't play Farseek, we can't play Kodama's Reach, all that stuff is just not available. Similarly, we can't play Solemn Simulacrum. So, instead, we have to play cards like these. Coiling Oracle, of course, a classic, but you don't see Skyward Eye Prophets every day, and there is a reason for that. It's an okay card, but it costs 6 mana, and that's quite a lot. Fabro Elder, though, I like a lot in this deck, really plays off the multicolor theme quite well. Now we move into another of our many sub-themes. This one, you've seen it before in these 5-color decks. It's Charms. We've got 11 Charms in this deck today. They're great with Vadrock, they're great with Ramos, they're great with Jegantha to help fill out those extra little pips of mana that you might not have spent that might just rot in your mana pool otherwise. So let's take a look at these. Abzan Charm, very flexible. It's a draw spell. It's a removal spell. Sometimes you make counters, but mostly you don't. Bant Charm, it's a removal spell, it's a counter spell, it destroys an artifact. Croesus's Charm, one of the old school charms from back in the day, alongside Dromar's Charm here. We've got removal, bounce, counter spells, a lot of different effects here, all of which are powerful and worthy of the card they're printed on. Here we have some more charms, old and new. Esper Charm, of course, the classic. What happens when I Esper Charm myself? Well, I'll draw 2 cards, thanks. I know it says target, but let's all be cool. It is Commander, after all. Naya Charm deals damage to a creature, taps creatures, regrowth. These are all somewhat marginal. Tapping all of someone's creatures is usually what I end up doing, just going in for the kill. Sultai Charm, another really solid one. A lot of destruction on this card. And then Treva's Charm. I like the exile target attacking creature mode a lot, and in a pinch you can destroy an enchantment. And we've got a couple of the 2-color guild charms as well. Dimir Charm, I like countering sorcery spells every once in a while. You might catch a Wrath, you might catch a big draw spell. Golgari Charm, I will often be found regenerating each creature I control with this one. And Rakdos Charm, all these modes are actually things I've used upwards of 5 times in my life, so don't count out Rakdos Charm. It's a great card. Now we've gotten into our maybe final sub-theme of the deck, alternate win conditions. That's right, and these two both play into the counters theme. Miles Aria might win us the game if we have a really big Ramos. Simic Ascendancy will win us the game if we build a really big Ramos. So both of these are really cool. Miles Aria gains us life, gives us counters. Simic Ascendancy also gives us counters, so even if you don't win the game with these cards, they're still pretty useful. Miles Aria I like in particular because it gives a +1/+1 counter to each of our creatures, and that can be quite useful. Now we've got some more generic value multicolored cards. Maelstrom Nexus, giving the first spell we play each turn Cascade, which I like a lot. I like this more than Maelstrom Wanderer, mostly because, I don't know, you don't see it as much, it's cooler, costs 5 colors, it's got fun art, it's not as overdone for me. And Villainous Wealth, of course, the best card ever printed, why wouldn't you include it? One of the other things that's hard to do with these restrictions is get a lot of value, get a lot of card draw efficiently. Hydroid Crisis we saw earlier might be the best option for this deck. I can't play cards like Sphinx's Revelation, Expansion Explosion that I might otherwise play in this deck, so I have to rely on regrowth type effects. Reborn Hope and Treasure Find will both get one thing back, but Reap the Past is really my favorite. You get to return X cards, and even if that's at random, paying 6 mana to return 4 cards at random from your graveyard to your hand, that's pretty good. And that's just one random mana cost I picked off the top of my head. Here's some, well, not really mana ramp, more extra land plays, but that kind of effect is still valuable in Commander. Growth Spiral, draw 1, you get an extra land onto the battlefield. It's a fantastic card, not just in Standard, but also playable here in Commander. And as a bonus, in between turns, you can just spend time looking at that art forever. Really good art. Urban Evolution, of course, a hybrid of a draw spell and the additional land play. That draw 3 cards really welcome here. Now we've got some ramp, kind of. Wargate is sort of a ramp spell. I mean, you can cast it for 3 and just go get a land from your deck. X = 0, not a big deal. Or you can, get any other permanent, that's fine too. Exploding Borders and Frenzied Tilling, both kind of costly rampant growth variants, but they're both okay. I mean, Exploding Borders, I'm not going to make it some huge argument for it being a great card, but at least Frenzied Tilling has the decency to destroy another land. Now, here we have the real ramp. Mirari's Wake and Trace of Abundance. These are both great. Trace of Abundance giving the land Shroud and letting it tap for an extra color, while Mirari's Wake just amps up all those lands. A little more removal. I know we got some in the Charms, but it never hurts to have some more. Utter End, Windgrace's Judgment, Anguished Unmaking, and Hull Breach all making appearances here. The Exile removal is really flexible. Windgrace's Judgment is a nice wide impact card, and Hull Breach is great for just blasting two things. Some other defensively focused cards here. Merciless Eviction and Dune Blast on that Wrath theme. Dovin's Veto here to counter an errant spell, and Kaya's Guile, an honorary charm, let's call it. Now we're into the lands. This is a heck of a mana base, and you're going to see another one of our sub-themes actually come up a little later. So we've got these lands to help us go get basic lands. We have 10 basics in this deck, 2 of each kind, so these 4 searching lands are really valuable here. These fetch lands, if you will. Some might call them searching lands. Where did I come up with that? Anyway, next slide. We've got some 5-color lands as well. Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, Pillar of the Perunes, which is only for multicolored spells. Don't try to tap this to cast Ramos. Just remember that. And Reflecting Pool. Reflecting Pool works great with Pillar of the Perunes because you don't have to make a restricted mana. You just make whatever mana you want. And we've got the Triomes. Ordinarily, I would have put 10 of the Tri-lands from Khans and Shards into this deck list, but because of the advent of the Triomes, I get to use these instead of 5 of those. So, sorry Khans lands, you've been replaced by some triple-typed cycling lands. Like I said, we've also got these Shards lands. These are all fantastic cards, just great at filling out that cycle. It's unfortunate that they don't have cycling and they can't be fetched the same way, but we're not doing that fetching in this deck anyway, so that part's not worrisome. It's the lack of cycling that's saddening me. You might be surprised to see guild gates because you're used to me building more expensive mana bases, but today I've taken things in a little bit of a different direction. You see, we're playing these gates for a reason, and that reason will become apparent shortly. Here's the other 5, by the way. There's actually one more gate in the deck, and you're going to see it on this next slide here. That's right, we're doing Maze's End. We've got one more alternate win. It's kind of a theme unto itself, gates, but we don't get to play any of the sweet gate payoffs because most of them are monocolored, so we're just playing Maze's End, and we're not even doing it super hard. This is not a hardcore Maze's End aggressively focused deck. This is a deck that might get you with Maze's End sometime, and that'd be fun. And we've got the 11th gate in here, Gateway Plaza, not like a great card. Not a card I would play if it didn't say gate on it, so, you know, that's just kind of how that is. But as a gate, I'm happy to have it. Throw in 2 of each of the 5 basics that we normally have lying around, and you should be all set. That's a deck. If you want to take a look at the whole deck list again, or just sort of admire it, make your own tweaks, whatever, check it out at bit.ly/RagingLevine Ramos. Of course, that capitalization is important, so make sure to press your Shift key the right number of times. Thanks for checking out my deck tech video, and I'll see you next time.